everyone, and welcome back to Selene's Take. If you're new here, I'm Selene, and I'm truly grateful you've decided to spend some time with me today. In our last conversation, I shared some of my personal journey as a transgender woman growing up in China. Today, I'd like to delve deeper into that experience and explore some thoughts on recent political developments affecting the transgender community, particularly the proposed restrictive policies by certain political parties. I grew up in Shandong province, a place rich in history and tradition. Known as the birthplace of Confucius, it's often considered the heartland of Confucianism, which has deeply influenced Chinese culture for centuries. Values like harmony, respect for authority, and adherence to social norms were woven into the fabric of daily life. In this environment, my K-12 education was unsurprisingly conservative. Topics like gender identity and sexuality were virtually absent from the curriculum. Yet, despite this lack of information, I began questioning my gender identity as early as elementary school. I remember being 7 or 8 years old, feeling a sense of disconnect that I couldn't quite articulate. There was a day when my class was rehearsing for a school play. The girls were assigned to be flowers, wearing colorful dresses, while the boys were trees, standing tall and still. I longed to be a flower, to wear those vibrant colors and dance freely, but I was told to be a tree, rooted and rigid. These feelings didn't fade as I grew older, they intensified. Without access to resources or guidance, I sought answers wherever I could. I spent countless hours in the local library, searching for any book that might shed light on what I was experiencing. The early internet became a secret haven for me, a place where I could explore those questions anonymously. I stumbled upon forums and chat rooms where people discussed feelings similar to mine. It was both a relief and a revelation. I wasn't alone. At home, when my parents were away, I'd try on my mother's clothes. I still remember the first time I put on one of her dresses, a simple floral patterned garment. To me, it felt like putting on a piece of my true self. Those moments were fleeting but precious, offering a glimpse of authenticity into a world where I felt compelled to hide. As I entered adolescence, the internal conflict grew more intense. My body began to change in ways that felt foreign and distressing. My voice deepened. Body hair became more pronounced, and my physical features became increasingly masculine. Each morning, I'd look in the mirror and feel a pound of dissonance. I couldn't grow my hair long due to school regulations, and I felt trapped in a body that didn't reflect who I was inside. Desperate for a solution, I turned once again to the internet. I discovered information about hormone replacement therapy, or HRT. Reading about it was like finding a lifeline. I began to hope that there was a way to align my physical appearance with my internal identity. However, seeking formal medical help felt impossible. The concept of being transgender was virtually unknown in my community, and I feared misunderstanding or rejection, not just from doctors, but most painfully, from my own family. So, like many others in my situation, I resorted to purchasing hormones through unofficial channels, essentially the black market. I connected with online acquaintances who provided access to anti-androgens and estrogens pills. I was aware of the risks but felt I had no other choice. I tried to educate myself about the medication, their effects, side effects, and how they worked, but without professional guidance, it was a precarious path. Looking back, I realized how fortunate I was. I didn't have much money to buy large quantities, and my cautious nature prevented me from taking excessive doses. But I know others who weren't so lucky. Many teenagers, feeling the same desperation, self-medicated without fully understanding the consequences. Some suffered serious health issues, others faced deepening mental health struggles, and tragically, some lost their lives. Reflecting on these experiences, I can't help but consider the economic principles that influence such phenomena. In economics, there's a concept known as the unintended consequences of regulation. When authorities impose strict regulations or prohibitions on certain goods or services without addressing the underlying demand, it often leads to the emergence of black markets. Take, for example, the Prohibition era in the United States. The ban on alcohol didn't eliminate the desire for it. Instead, it gave rise to illegal production and distribution, often controlled by organized crime. Similarly, strict drug laws have resulted in illicit drug markets worldwide. These black markets are typically unregulated, leading to lower quality products and increased risks to consumers. In the context of transgender healthcare, when access to legitimate medical services is restricted, the demand doesn't vanish. Instead, individuals may turn to unregulated sources, as I did. This not only puts their health at risk due to potentially unsafe products, but also removes them from the safeguards of professional medical oversight. Moreover, attempts to suppress discussions and education about gender identity can have profound social costs. When people lack access to accurate information, they are more susceptible to misinformation and exploitation. Suppressing conversations doesn't eliminate the underlying questions and feelings, it simply forces them into the shadows. Authoritarian efforts to limit the exposure of transgender figures in public spaces or to silence discussions among teens raise significant concerns. Such measures can infringe upon freedom of expression and basic human rights. Even in countries with extensive censorship mechanisms like China, these communities and conversations persist. The existence of transgender teens and supportive networks is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in seeking understanding and connection. This brings me to recent political developments in other parts of the world. Certain political parties have proposed restrictive policies that limit access to gender-affirming care and suppress discussions about gender identity, particularly among youth. While these policies may be intended to protect, they can have unintended and harmful consequences. From an economic standpoint, prohibiting access to legitimate services doesn't eliminate the underlying need. Instead, it can drive individuals toward unregulated and potentially dangerous alternatives. Information asymmetry becomes a significant issue. Without access to accurate, unbiased information, individuals may make decisions that negatively impact their health and well-being. Furthermore, efforts to suppress visibility and dialogue can exacerbate feelings of isolation and mental health struggles among transgender individuals. Denying the existence or validity of transgender experiences doesn't align with the reality, and these identities are a natural and enduring part of human diversity. So what can be done? I believe in the capacity of individuals, including children and teenagers, to reason and make informed decisions when provided with complete and unbiased information. Trusting young people enough to include them in conversations about their own well-being is essential. For parents and family members, openness and a willingness to listen are crucial. Creating an environment where children feel safe and express themselves allows families to navigate these complex issues together, making decisions that are thoughtful and considerate of everyone's well-being. For educators and policymakers, recognizing that education is a powerful tool is vital. Comprehensive, age-appropriate education about gender identity and sexuality can empower individuals to make informed choices and reduce stigma stigma and misinformation. For medical professionals, a focus on thorough individualized assessments and a commitment to the well-being of each patient is essential. The goal should be to provide support and guidance, ensuring that any intervention are appropriate and based on informed consent. From an economic perspective, understanding the restrictive policies can lead to unintended and harmful consequences is key. By addressing the underlying demand through regulated, supportive means, we can mitigate the risks associated with black markets and unregulated practices, emphasizing human connection and rights. At its core, this issue is about human rights and the freedom to live authentically. Attempts to suppress or control expressions of a gender identity not only impact individuals, but also reflect on the values of society as a whole. Embracing diversity and fostering understanding enriches communities and strengthens social cohesion. Freedom of expression and access to accurate information are fundamental rights that support healthy, thriving societies. Policies that infringe upon these rights risk creating environments of fear and misunderstanding, which can have far-reaching negative effects. In reflecting on my journey, I recognize how fortunate I have been. Despite the challenges, I found support and have been able to embrace my true self. However, I also carry the stories of those who weren't as fortunate, those who suffered in silence, faced rejection, or lacked the resources and support they desperately needed. I share these thoughts not to assign blame but to advocate for a more compassionate, informed approach. The issues surrounding gender identity are complex and deeply personal. They require nuanced understanding, open dialogue, and policies that prioritize the well-being and rights of individuals. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my story and perspectives. These conversations aren't always easy, but they are necessary. If you have experiences or insights you'd like to share, I invite you to leave a comment below. Let's continue this dialogue, learn from one another, and work toward a more understanding, inclusive world. If you find value in these discussions, please consider subscribing to Selini's Take. Your support means a great deal to me. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.